third. Oh, look at this. I know. Well, I forgot to. It is the third Friday of every month. So we went over this, I think, at your guys' first orientation, and then at the last one that we were at for the JC. So just make sure you mark that in your calendars. Very important to be at the monthly meetings. We take attendance. So if you guys haven't checked in with Sarai right there, Sarai, raise your hand. The lovely Sarai. Just make sure you do that because we mark your hours, and then that's how we get you guys paid, and that's how we know that you are here. So for this month, we will be focusing on the role of the youth promotor. So we will be talking about what it means to be a YP. You're actually going to hear from like some past YP. We'll do a couple activities to see like what you want to get out of this experience, what you want to get out of your tracks. If you guys have any questions, and then we'll do some games and some updates at the end, and then we'll be done. Next slide, please. Right, so welcome to your first monthly meeting. I always like to have the agenda because I want to know what I'm doing for the whole day, or for 3 hours on the whole day. I want to keep you guys for the whole day. So we're doing the welcome and agenda overview. For those of you who are on Zoom, it's good to see you. If you wouldn't mind turning on your cameras, that would be awesome. And we encourage you, of course, to participate through the chat or muting and unmuting. We can all hear you here too, which is exciting. And then for all of you guys who are here, it's good to see you too. We went to Costco earlier and bought 3 giant pizzas, and if you don't eat them, then I will eat them, and then it'll be bad. So please eat the pizza. And we also got veggie trays too. There's water and juices in both of these fridges. There's sushi in this one. That is mine. So we're gonna do an icebreaker in a little bit from 4:10 to 4:15, and then at 4:15 through 5:15, me, Stephanie, and Christian are going to be going over the role of the youth promotor. We'll be giving you guys like a little bit of like backbone definitions, like things that you guys should know that will really help you for the CHW class you guys are about to start too. And then from 5:15 to 6:15, we're going to hear a panel of CHWs. We have a past YP and a past promotor, Jesus Rosales, who's coming in. We have a past YP and also one of our board members, Juliet Rosales, no relation, who is here. Where is she? She's in the room. She's in my room. And then me also. I am also a CHW. So I'm going to be talking a little bit on the panel too. And I'm in grad school for public health, which is something that many of you guys might be interested in or just furthering your education. So you'll hear a little bit from me too. And then from 6:15 to 6:25, we'll take a break. I'll tell you guys where the bathrooms are. You can get some fresh air, eat some more food. And those of you at home, you know, take a bio break. And then when we come back, I'm going to teach you guys time logs 101 and how to do your time logs so that when they're due, they're going to be killer. We'll get you guys paid. It'll be awesome. And then at 6:45, Christian will lead us with what we call glows and grows. Has anyone heard of what glows and grows are? Now, what about like a rose and a thorn? Or like a plus and delta, those things. Yeah, it's basically like what went well and then what areas we have for growth. So this is your first monthly meeting with us. I love hearing like what are areas for growth because that's how we improve the program. And I also really like hearing like what went well because then we can continue to do it. Awesome. Next slide, please, Stephanie. Okay. So we're going to do an icebreaker. In a minute, those of you who are on Zoom, Stephanie is going to put you in breakout rooms of 2. But for those of you guys who are here, we're going to do a quick icebreaker just to get to kind of know one another. Who here is a foodie? Who loves food? Nice. I mean, we all need food to survive. But like, who lives to eat rather than eats to live? Wait, you guys, this will change. This will change. I am a foodie. What?
Did you say the same thing twice?
No, you live to eat rather than eat to live.
Oh, okay.
Wait, I live to eat, but people eat to live.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Love food. Okay. So what I want you guys to do is think about what your favorite food is. And we can have multiple favorite foods, but just pick one. And then turn to a partner, turn to someone near you. And I want you to fight for that food. Why is that food the best food in the world? Think about taste, texture, consistency, what it reminds you of, etc. So like for me, my favorite food is sushi. And there's so many different flavors. And it comes in all these different pretty colors. You can put all these different sauces on it. I love sushi. It's the best food in the world. But then I also really like a good meatball sub. So you can go back and forth if you want to. I'll allow it. But so Steph, if you wouldn't mind putting everybody in Zoom onto 2 breakout rooms, 2 people within a breakout room, and then we can get started. We're gonna do this only for about like 5 minutes. So then you guys can go ahead and start too.
Some are going to be in groups of 3 just because of numbers, just so you know, but most of them will be 2.
Okay, perfect. That sounds good. Cool. Christian? I'm not gonna get this breakout room. So staff is putting the breakout rooms together. What did you say? Ooh, I love salmon. How do you like it? Like oven, grill. Ooh, I probably shouldn't have been this one. I'm gonna get lucky, okay, but those are good. Or whatever. I'm going over here. Would you guys say?
Right? Like, it's spicy.
Oh, okay. Love that.
Sounds weird. That's exactly where. Wait.
Yeah. If you have it, like, one time.
Oh, damn. I didn't know that.
Huh? I saw that.
It
Like,
sounds
with,
long.
pineapple slice.
I do.
I've never.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So it looks like this. It's all soggy. It looks, no, it's hella good. So if they do like a spicy sauce and they have like a creamy one, they put it in there with like, the local lettuce. Yes, and my cousins, they never ate it. I'll try. So imagine you just give it back, just put a hole in the corner, and you just put it.
I usually get, I go to one.
It's honestly sounds weird, but I took my cousins there, and they never had it before, and they loved it. They love it. Everyone that tries it loves it. That's why it's the best food ever. If I were to take each and every one of you, you would love it. Yeah, that's traditional.
Oh, you can eat, yes, me and my brother go there every Thursday night. Not every Thursday night. Yeah, especially when they have.
Yeah, but it's really good though, and it's so spicy, like, a lot of people are like.
So, Polka, we're just talking about.
To eat this, we were like, we have like a pile of just napkins, because you know.
Tacos, but.
Sorry, I was ready for that question.
Yeah, my dad.
Yeah.
But it's funny because
Yeah, especially, I've heard I all of these calls. I'm like, you guys, you're doing it right. Good job. Well, keep talking about yourselves. We have, I think, just a few more minutes left. Yeah, exciting.
Someone said.
Thank you. Yeah. So you're on that five. Wait, you have to have a seat. We just did a quick little icebreaker, and then now we're just wrapping up. You guys have like 20 seconds to wrap up your thoughts. Did anyone else say sushi? No, I know you did. Nice, sorry. Anybody else? No?
Curious to know.
What about like Mexican food variations? Yeah. Chinese food? Italian? Ooh, what was your Italian one? Ravioli.
What kind? Pesto?
Pesto. All right, I think.
It's, I know.
Okay, is everybody back, Steph? I'm assuming.
Yes, sorry, it's hard for me to find the unmute button with everything going on, but yes.
Okay, no worries. Okay, awesome. Everybody is back. So next slide, please. Next. Slide. Okay, awesome. So we just like to do quick little icebreakers at the beginning. Right, for this monthly meeting, there is actually like a lot of information, but in other monthly meetings that we'll have in the future, there'll be more opportunities for you guys to bond, play activities, get to know each other. The icebreakers are usually like a lot longer, maybe like they're 30 minutes to 45 minutes. But we have a lot to unpack today, so we're just gonna get started. Today, we're gonna talk about the role of the youth promotor. So what all of you guys are is a youth promotor. You guys are all youth promotores. And the role of the YP is to build health awareness and reduce stigma in the Latinx community, in whichever context that may be in, and inspire the future health and professional workforce. So you are all the future health and professional workforces. After this, we want you to apply to be YP leads, and then we want you all to continue your educational journey in whichever way that might be, your professional journey. Sometimes we have YP that are like, you know, I learned a lot here, but I think I want to do something else. And that's good too. We want you to be inspired. We want you guys to change ideas, change direction, and we want to help you along the way. Next slide, please.
Why are we here? So I'm gonna read this and then I'm gonna go off of it. So Latino Service Provider LSP. So if you guys haven't got it yet, we use that for short. Trains Latinx youth ages 16 to 25 to be mental health and health promotion y promotores via a structured paid internship program. And gives you an ample support and opportunities to present mental health, wellness, education, and resources through events and community conversations. Thank you guys. Youth promotores engage the Latinx community and offer information in Spanish and English and are culturally responsive. So so it's exactly just all that. We went over it during your interview process, but you know, as you continue learning, you will see like how you can support, what information you're going to gather, and how it's going to be useful. So this is going to be like introduction of the program itself. Next slide.
And now we're going to pass it to Stephanie. She's going to talk to you all about this is so weird. The social determinants of health. Has anybody heard of that? No? Okay, awesome, because you're gonna learn it now. I learned about social determinants of health when I was at the junior college, my second or third year, and I accidentally walked into a class and they were talking about it, and I was like, what is this? This is not the class I'm supposed to be in, but I stayed because I was so interested in what they had to say. It was the first time that I heard about like my life and how I was raised and the place that I was raised and what that meant for me like moving forward, because we all have different social determinants of health. I made this for grad school. And Stephanie is going to now explain. She's in that room, but she's going to explain it to all of you on Zoom and in person. So take it away, Steph.
Awesome, thank you. So yeah, I am in our office, in mine and Magalli's office, in the main LSP office, but here to facilitate all of the Zoom things. So just as a reminder for those of us on Zoom, it'd be really awesome if those of you who can turn on your cameras. We would love to see you. Those in the office can also see you, and especially when we take breaks and stuff, it's a really great way to build community if we can see you and you can see us. So we just want to send that reminder before we start with this slide. So social determinants of health. This is a very important topic when it comes to community health work and public health. So we're gonna go over this. It's a lot of information. So if you have any questions, just feel free to raise your hand or just speak up and say something, because it is a really important concept that we want everyone to understand as we enter this journey of learning how to be community health workers. So social determinants of health, it's kind of actually what it sounds like. They are the areas or the issues that might impact, the social issues that might impact, that might determine the outcome of our health. So the definition is right there: conditions in the places where people live, learn, work, and play that affect a wide range of health risks and outcomes. And this amazing chart or graph that Magalli has built for us touches on really important areas of these social determinants. So I'm going to start on the left where it says healthcare, because that's probably one that we can all grasp our heads around a little bit easier than some of the other ones. So healthcare. How many of you have had experiences, or maybe yourself or with a parent, where you go to the doctor and no one speaks the language, no one speaks your parents' language? So you have to translate, you have to do your best to try to help your family, your parents, your grandparents, whoever it is you're supporting, understand what's going on. Some of us have been in those situations, right? And it's not really helping our family members get the care that they need. Healthcare is a social determinant of health, whether or not someone has access to coverage or insurance, right? Some people have to pay out of pocket for the services or the illnesses that they acquire. Accessibility, how accessible is physically is the place that someone is accessing healthcare at. Is it near a bus station? Is it not? Is it, way out in the middle of town or in the middle of nowhere where it's accessible or not? The quality of care. This is when we're talking about language, and we're talking about whether or not someone feels that they're being cared for, that they're making connections with their providers. And then lastly, of course, the provider themselves. So these are the kinds of issues that we're going to dive deep into, especially in the community health worker course. Social issues that impact someone's outcomes, someone's health outcomes, and the ways in which we can kind of mitigate or stop, intervene to make sure that these are not actually determinants of our community's health. I'm going to move up to where it says economic stability. We all know, right? Economics and finances are important in a person's health or in a community's health. So when we think about employment, how easy can someone get employed at a place? Income, are they receiving living wages? Are they actually making an income that is supporting them and their families? Expenses, how expensive are things in a community? How expensive is rent? How expensive is a mortgage? How much does it cost to buy a house, right? Those kinds of things are critical to surviving. And if you can't access that, then that's going to have an income on, or an outcome on your health, or an impact on your health. And social capital. Social capital are like networks, the kinds of people that we're connected to, the kinds of people that might be able to help us in a time of need. If we don't have social capital, sometimes it makes it really easy or really difficult actually to deal with a crisis or deal with an emergency that might come up that we might need some financial support for. Physical environment, right? The things in our surroundings, clean water and air. Some people don't have clean water and air. Housing, transportation, parks and playgrounds. I know where I live in Southwest Santa Rosa, we don't have the proper numbers of parks and playgrounds that we're supposed to have for the number of people. That's a policy. That's how politics actually impacts my health and the health of my community. We actually don't have enough parks. Zip code and geographic location. We're going to learn a lot about how zip code actually impacts the age at which you die. what's that called?
Uh,
Life expectancy. Oh my gosh, that one just like really left me. Yes, your life expectancy. So the CHW course is going to dive deep into a document called A Portrait of Sonoma County that actually lists neighborhoods and zip codes and tells you what your life expectancy is at, whether you live in this neighborhood versus this neighborhood. So zip code and all of these social determinants absolutely impact your life expectancy. Education. We know that education is one of the biggest metrics for determining whether or not someone is going to also have a long life expectancy or a short life expectancy or certain health outcomes. So literacy, can folks read and write? Language, education is really, at least here, education also helps us learn English in many ways. And if you can't acquire the language, then you live with a language barrier. Early childhood education, we know preschool and those really, it's like the first 5 years of your life are incredibly critical to setting yourselves up, setting all of us up for success. And higher education, is higher education attainable? Is it something that, that we do as a community? And then down to food security. We're going to learn about health deserts, what it means to live in a health desert or to live food insecure. So we'll learn more about that. Culture, access, and knowledge. There's a lot that goes into just even talking about food and food access and how that determines our health. And then lastly, community. Does someone feel integrated into their community? Do they feel safe? Do they have a support system? Are they exposed to violence often? Are there justice policies that protect certain communities? So this is all a framework that we're going to dive deep into, but this is really just more of an introduction to talk about social determinants of health. So this is a key phrase. If you're writing and taking notes, this is something that I would write down and highlight and circle: social determinants of health. And if you're really interested in learning more about how policies and structure, infrastructure and society impact our health, there's a lot that you can Google and learn about, and I'm happy to talk more about it too. So I know that was a lot of information, so I'm just going to give us kind of like a second to process, and then I'm going to pass it on to myself. JK, I have this slide too. All right, so what do we want? And when we're talking about we're really talking about you. We're talking about myself, Magalli, Christian, Sarai, the staff at LSP who are supporting you in this work. We want to make sure that as a group, not just as your group, but as a group altogether, as a team, we are having critical conversations about community health work and social determinants of health, because at the end of the day, what we want is for people to live healthy, just, and resilient lives. That is LSP's mission. That is why we do the work that we do. So what might that look like at a societal level? It looks like pro-equity policies that center racial equity, language equity, all of these determinants that we just talked about. Equity is the solution, or striving toward equity is the solution. Addressing structural racism and privilege. Magalli actually did a really great, or is in the process of doing a really great project for the city of Santa Rosa for her master's program, where she helped to write a resolution declaring racism as a public health issue. And these are the kinds of things that we want to be able to do to move forward as a community. Destigmatizing mental health challenges. So these are the kinds of things that we want to work toward at a societal level, and it is totally doable. We can do that as a group, and we've been doing it as a group for the past 6 years now. You're cohort 6, you're joining in this effort now. Community and policy. So what might now this look like at a community and policy level? It looks like affordable housing and safe neighborhoods. Those of you who are promotores de vivienda and in that track, this is exactly what we're going to be working toward, is trying to push forward for different housing projects and making sure that people know what's going on in their own communities when it comes to housing. Good paying jobs. We can advocate for good paying jobs, quality education, access to healthy foods, access to physical activity, healthy living environment, access to healthcare, access to transportation. These are all of the things that we want to see at a community and policy level. And then at the individual and family level, when we think about ourselves, or when you think about yourselves and your families, Homelessness is an example. We want to make sure that everyone has access to housing, has access to shelter, untreated mental illness, health problems. So all of these are issues that we can address at an individual and at a family level through the work that we're doing as community health workers, the work that you're doing as youth promotores. This is all a part of your role. And I know it may seem really big and vague, but the community health worker course is really going to help us understand how we do this. We're just kind of telling you, this is your role. This is your role as a youth promotor. Now you have taken on the role of being a community health worker, and this is what we strive to do as community health workers. So I'm just going to read the little clouds here at the bottom. Political structures and institutional practices that assure fairness and opportunity for all. Absolutely, that is something that we want to see change in our community. Social, economic, and physical conditions that allow people to reach their full potential. That is what it means to live a healthy, just, and resilient life. Services for individuals and families to treat problems. These are the kinds of resources that you will be learning about, how you can refer people to get the services that they need, so that at an individual and family level, we might be addressing untreated mental illness and other health problems. And you'll learn how to do that. All right, and now I am passing it over to Magalli.
Yes, here I am. Owl, owl, owl. All right, the owl will find me, but maybe I'll move. No, it's fine. Okay, so where will you see the change? So we see the change every single year. So me and Stephanie have been here for almost 4 years. In our positions, we started at the end of like cohort 1, I think, and then moved on, or no, we started at the end of cohort 2, and you guys are a 6th cohort, which is really exciting because every single year I see so much growth. You guys won't believe me right now, but later on you're gonna be like, oh my God, I did that, which is the most amazing thing. And then we see it also in ourselves, because in no way, no how are we the experts. Every single year, every single month, every single time we meet, we try to bring in different representations from the policy changes that Stephanie was talking about. So this year you guys will meet so many people to build on your social capital. So sometimes how many of you guys are, and on Zoom too, if you can raise your hand, how many of you are children of immigrants or immigrants yourselves? Yeah, so something that we don't have compared to our multi-generational counterparts who have lived in the US for generations and generations and generations, sometimes is that social capital. I know when my mom moved here from Mexico, she was the only one out of her family, like the entire clan of Larqués, who moved to the United States. And then after that, I only had one tío that followed, and then a cousin. So I have like the smallest family here, which means my social capital is so small. So when I was writing like resumes and applications, I didn't really have anyone to lean on. I didn't really have anyone who knew me as a professional. This is why we are doing this work, because you guys have and will receive all the networking skills and the people who will support you along the way. So you guys are going to meet a lot of professionals that are just like us, but through different organizations that you can connect with and build that social capital. You also have us, and more importantly, you also have Eliza, who's right there, and you have each other. So it's really important for you guys to build those connections and build your social capital, because one day if you're like, hey, I'm really interested in, Christian's job, who can I reach out to? Or I'm really interested in working for the city, who can I reach out to? You guys have those connections to be able to do these things. So where you will see the change is in number 1, social inclusion and connectedness. So I always like to say we build community within community. Like I'm a part of a community, but you guys are also my community now too. I'm also a part of a community of artists. You guys might be a community of artists yourselves, or sports, or whatever different hats that you wear, you belong within that community, and you're able to instill change and share your passion that you have without feeling judged or have to worry about, people questioning your actions. We like to build supportive relationships, involvement in communities. So throughout the year, we're actually going to be doing a lot of like community engagement. We like to go to a lot of like health fairs, parks, and kind of just share like the work that we're doing. We do a lot of group activities, and then we do a lot of civic engagement too, especially the promotores de vivienda. You guys will talk a lot about housing. We actually had a promotora de vivienda who last year was a pro promotora. She sits on what is called, it's escaping me right now. It'll come to
The
me.
Charter Review Committee?
Thank you. She knew. I was thinking about Jocelyn. Jocelyn, is she pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed for the notion for our undocumented brothers and sisters living in the city of Santa Rosa to be able to vote? And that was the #1 thing that the city is talking about right now. So those are things that you guys might be introduced to, which is really exciting because that's making like actual policy change in the places that you live that will affect our loved ones and the communities that we live in. You will advocate for freedom from discrimination and violence. So within the Salud Mental track, we talk a lot about domestic violence and sexual assault. You guys get across the board a lot of training on like intimate partner violence, which we'll go into the later months, but we learn about like value diversity, what it means to be physically and emotionally safe, and then autonomy and self-determination. So living your best life for yourself. Which is a concept that we all try to think about, but actually applying it and practicing it takes time. And that's something that we really want to help you focus on this year too. And then last but not least, navigating and connecting to resources to ensure basic needs. So throughout the year, we'll be talking a lot about education. We have one of my homegirls come in, her name is Yesenia. She is a EOPS counselor at the JC. She's the one who brought us all the shirts the last time we were at the JC. She comes in and blows your mind about how much money you could be saving in education through financial aid. And then we set her up with one-on-one appointments with students if you want to talk about maybe next steps if you guys are transferring, or of those who are already at the university level or thinking about it or wanting to graduate. You can also use us as well. We've already gone through that process. Mental health support, we'll do a couple of like group therapy sessions, but there's a lot of mental health support throughout the year. Safety preparedness, that's especially for like the fires that we get every year. Knock on wood, we don't get them this year. And then employment. So every time a job opportunity comes around that we think any of you guys would be best fit for, Stephanie sends an email, and then of course you guys can always use us as references for any employment opportunities that you're looking for. Housing, we'll talk a lot about like safe housing, housing equity, transportation. Right now I'm working with the city of Santa Rosa to have them come in and teach us about like transportation, like using like our city buses and stuff, what that looks like. I don't know how to use a city bus, so that would be awesome for me to learn too. And then of course food, talking about food. We always have food at events too, but we're talking about like resources for people to get food. So different food banks that exist, different ways to sign up to get food. And yeah, next slide. Okay, so now we just want to have the opportunity to kind of like check in and ask any questions. So we'll probably do like a 5-10 minute like check-in. Does anybody have any questions right now that we can help to answer? There was so much information on there, so there's no such thing as like a dumb question.
And everyone on
I was
Zoom,
literally about to say that.
and everyone on Zoom, also feel free to just put on the chat and we can just read off of what those questions may be. So don't be shy. Who has any questions or any comments too? Anything that we should talk about?
And you get like the summary of your first 8 minutes.
Oh yeah, because you came in like, we just did like a quick icebreaker at the beginning, and then we talked about like the role of the youth promotores. So like what you are all going to be doing within the next year, like where we see the change and how you'll be engaging with the community. And yeah, that was pretty much it. And then
In the chart, the social.
I think she came for the chart. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, and these meetings are also recorded. We upload them to YouTube, and there's like a special link so that nobody else can see it, just us. And then Stephanie at the end of the month or at the end of these meetings sends that link. So if anyone ever misses a meeting, you guys can find them on YouTube and watch them again.
Are any comments or like reflections also, like, did anyone find like social determinants of health, or, you know, what Magalli shared about what your role is? Like, is there anything interesting about what you just heard, or anything that you want to share?
Had a hand over there.
Yeah. So obviously there's different groups with the promotores. So let's say obviously they're focusing on different things, doing different things. But if you did because I think we touched on this the first time that we met, that you can kind of step out of your group and do something else, or something really catches your eye, kind of be involved in that.
Yeah, so what we do is throughout the year, you guys will all be cross-trained. So whether you're Promotor de Salud Mental, Vivienda, Preparados, or Verdes, you guys are all gonna get the same training, which is really exciting because you'll all learn the same information and you guys will all, in one sense or another, be working together. Within your tracks, that's where you will focus on creating your own project. For some of the tracks, we have projects that are already long-standing that people that past YPs just really love. And then you can decide if you want to continue to do that. But then every year we have promotores say, you know what, these don't really interest me. I came to LSP because I wanted to do something like this, and we're here to support you. What track are you in, by the way?
Verdes, right?
Verdes. Okay, cool. So if you're interested, we can definitely chat and see like what you might be interested in, because there's nothing that we can't turn into a project. And we're actually going to be working on some of that stuff the next monthly meeting, because you guys will meet your YP leads this year. We just finished selecting them. They have their orientation tomorrow. So at the July monthly meeting, you guys will be working with them about like specifically what your projects might look like for the next year. But you have a whole year together for you guys to kind of develop what that might look like. But yeah, that's a great question.
And to that point too, also like this past year, there was an opportunity where we made like 300 emergency go bags, and we only had, I think, what, 3 promotores preparados. So some of them couldn't even make it. So then that's when we opened it up to everyone else. So it's like, there's still that opportunity that you're kind of talking about where it's like, it's not within your track, but you could definitely step in and be like, hey, you know what? I'm better at this, but I want to go help. And those opportunities are there.
Yeah, and then last year, the Verdes, for example, did like a presentation that all YP were invited to as well. So there's also opportunities for you all to kind of cross-train within the projects too, to learn about what other groups are doing. And a lot of the groups actually hold events for all YPs to attend to. So you'll learn about what all of them are and even be involved in some of them, because we want you all to get like the full experience, but also like stay within your track so that we can support like specific projects that fall under like the umbrella of whatever track you're in. That makes sense. Does that make sense? I'm a visual learner, so I see it in my mind and then I speak it, but sometimes people are, what did that girl say? I have no idea. Any other comments or questions about what we might have learned?
Is there any on the chat stuff?
No.
Check the time too. I mean, I remember the first time I learned about social determinants of health, I was kind of pissed. That's not a bad word. I was kind of pissed because I live in South Park, Santa Rosa. I've lived there my whole life. And to Stephanie's point, either we only have one park, and for like the longest time, it's always been kind of overrun by homelessness. The parks have never been updated. Only until like a couple years ago, we finally got lights. I love to play basketball. The basketball hoops didn't even have nets on them. The playgrounds were like unkept. So I never really went to the park. I would have to travel to go to Bennett Valley, to go to Howard Park, or travel to go to another park. And without a license, like that's really hard to do. And I learned that because of where I live, I actually have like a decreased lifespan of like 5 to 10 years. And that's crazy because we all live in Santa Rosa. So I remember just being really upset about that. And I'm super hard on my city council members. They can attest to that because I want to see changes in the places that I live. And I want to be able to live a long and healthy life, even though I might not live in a different part of Santa Rosa. I feel like we all should have those equal opportunities to live healthy, just, resilient lives. But you guys will learn more about it too. And then you'll become really passionate or really angry like I became. And then you'll want to like instill change, and people want to listen to us. You'd be surprised. So many people are like, I want to hear what the youth say. I want to hear what the youth say. And a lot of them actually have been starting to practice what they preach. So
can I add a couple of things too? Like,
Go
I'm
ahead.
just thinking about like what some of you said were like your career interest in your interviews. I know some of you are interested in being like direct healthcare providers, like either nurses or doctors or psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, so folks that work directly with our community. Even folks in law enforcement, it's super, super important to understand or try to understand the different lived experiences that people have. You never know who you're going to be working with, and you never know who's going to be walking through your door or who you're going to be trying to take care of. And there are so many issues that impact our day-to-day lives, and that impacts also the way that they receive care. And so as a healthcare provider, as any kind of provider or a person who works with other people, you have to have some level of understanding of how to help folks who are dealing with just so many different things. So I just also wanted to offer that perspective, because you might be wondering to yourself, like, how does this actually relate to me? Like, why should I really care? And we should all really care, because we're all going through different things and experience different things. And to some, and just being a community health worker, one of the core values is being able to not speak up for people, but to try to elevate the experiences of others if you're in a position of privilege, or in a position where you might hold some sort of influence. So just wanted to offer that too. And also, I've been getting several actually, messages about the community health worker course. So as a reminder, the community health worker course does start next Tuesday. Everyone has a calendar invite for the class. We're still waiting on the Zoom link from the facilitators, but I will be following up with them shortly about that. But it is on your calendars. So whether you use Google Calendars or you only get the emails, everyone should have at least gotten an email about the community health worker course. If you need me to resend that, just let me know. We'll also be providing reminders the same way that we provided reminders for this meeting.
Thank you. And then what you said earlier, Steph, about how we should all care, and like you might be thinking, how does this apply to me? That's actually a good segue into our next slide. Cool. So we're going to do a quick activity. Those of you who are on Zoom, if you wouldn't mind just getting like a piece of paper or like something to write with and something to write on. I'm like a markers kind of girl, but those of you who are in person, we have paper and pens. What we're going to do is I want you guys to take some time to think about what interests you within your track. So for our salud mental, verdes, preparados, vivienda, what interests you about your track? And if you don't remember what track you're in, what interests you about the program, or what interests you about what you might be learning this year? And then second is, what do you want to see yourself doing to address the issues? So staff went through the social determinants of health. We talked about so many different things throughout our society, community, family, individual level. For me, I like to think local, act global, or the other way around. I like to think about like, okay, who in my family can I help right now? Who are two people that I can help that once they're good, they're gonna help others. And once they're good, they're gonna help others. Because unfortunately, we're not superheroes, some of us are. We can't save the world as a whole. We have to think in pieces. So what do you see yourself wanting to do to address any of the issues that Stephanie went over? Is there anything we missed? Is there anything that we should add? So we went over the social determinants of health, but maybe something clicked in your mind that are like, they forgot about this, or like, wait, what about that? So think about that as well. Write it down, draw it out. And then Steph, if you wouldn't mind putting the YP in groups of like 3 again, like random groups of 3, just to do this for like the next like 10 or like 10, 15 minutes. No, 10 minutes would be awesome. And then me and Christian are just gonna go around and just chat with you guys to see how that's going. And then in your groups in the breakout rooms that Stephanie is gonna do, talk amongst yourselves too. Maybe it's easier to talk more intimately about like the things that you learned. And maybe you'll find someone who's in your track, or maybe you'll find someone who isn't, and you can kind of talk about what interests you. Does that sound good?
For those that are on Zoom, if you have access to like paper or a pen, feel free to go grab that. or even if you just want to, maybe some of you have like iPads or something that you can draw on. I don't know. I don't have those things, but I've seen Magalli do it. So whatever you need to gather before we put you in your breakout rooms, go and do that now.
Cool. So we'll do that for like the next 10 minutes until 5 o'clock, and then we'll come back together. Maybe we'll share out for like a little bit about what you guys put down, and we'll move on to the next piece. Cool. And you guys feel free to talk amongst yourselves. Oh, I'm not going to join this breakout room.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So the social determinants of health that like Stephanie went over a little bit ago, so like, you know, parks, your zip code, access to healthcare, access to food, access to resources, like in general, like especially like mental health resources. So like with Verdes, one of the biggest things that we've heard time and time again is that Latinos aren't like visiting our parks as often. And I'm like, well, yeah, like what parks are available or like safe for us to go to right now? I don't really visit my parks, and when I do, it's only for a walk and then I go home. So there's, yeah, just think about anything that, or even anything that might interest you within your project track too, because we take that into consideration when we want to like develop what our projects. And the SADA used to be one of our youth global labs. She used to be one of our leads. She used to be one of our growth global labs, and now she's staff. So utilize her as well. She's really cool. And you guys can talk. Don't worry about being shy. Put on some music, maybe. Oh, okay. Oh.
You want me to put on music?
Yes, can you? Thank you.
From Mariachi Loco.
No, put on Bad Bunny. No, Daddy Yankee. Okay, one of them. Cool. Ow. Are you guys doing really well? So one of the things that I learned, okay, I think we're back. Are we back? Hello. Cool. Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. So welcome back, everyone. Christian, what's called you? Christian and I walked around just kind of listening to what everyone in the office had to say, and then I hope those of you on Zoom are also able to like kind of share out too. In the Zoom, we just appreciate your participation. I know that we can't physically be in there, but it really helps to like have your cameras on and to be engaged and talking. Every year at the end of the year, we have people who are like, oh, on Zoom, I was really shy, I kept my camera off, but I wish I turned it on and talked more. So now is the opportunity. And then I do also just want to give the opportunity for all of you within like the next like, what time is it? Like 5 minutes or so, just to share out. So maybe we can start with the folks in person. Like, is there anything that you want to share out that you maybe thought of, or that you wrote down, or that you shared with anyone at your table? No pressure, but it is always nice to share. Or
Not all at once, please.
Yeah.
Like,
or anybody on Zoom want to share out what they thought of?
I'll share.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm in the salud mental, sorry. And I just think it's like interesting because I mean we live in our heads like really 24/7, so I don't know, so nice.
I love that. Yeah, we do live in our heads 24/7. The brain is amazing. It named itself. It's the craziest thing.
Magalli, do you mind repeating that? It was a little quiet for those
Yes.
on Zoom.
Yes, she shared, what was your name again? Arely. Nice with the pizza, love it. Arely shared that she's in the salud mental track, And she's just really interested about learning more about like mental health, mental capacity, because we're with our brain, we're with ourselves like 24/7, which is really cool to think about. And there's a lot of opportunities there too. To live happy, just and resilient lives by just training your brain. But well, anybody else? I heard some from like Preparados, some from Vivienda, others from Salud Mental.
Got it, got it.
No. All right, going once, going twice, going 3 times. No, okay. If nobody else wants to share, like that's totally fine. I know this is the first monthly meeting, so it could be a little intimidating. Hopefully by the second one, you guys will feel a little bit more loose, more comfortable. We definitely want you guys to be able to take space. Has anyone heard that before? Take space. You guys are welcome here. You guys, this is a judgment-free zone. We can't stress that enough. I guarantee you, other people are probably thinking the same thing that you're thinking. So it's always good to, voice your opinions. We want you guys to feel comfortable and safe doing so. So take up space. This is a safe space. And with that being said, we can probably take maybe like let's do a 10-minute break, and we'll be back at 5:15. Sound good? Awesome. That says 5 minutes, but we'll take 10 minutes. I'm giving you guys double because I want to eat some pizza. And those of you who are on Zoom, feel free to get up, stretch your legs, do a bio break. We'll be back at 5:15, and then we will get started with the next thing on our agenda. We're used to a wedding in Mexico for like 4 hours. Like $10. Okay, sorry. Hi everyone, welcome back from your break. Next slide, please. Oh, go back. There you go. Okay, cool. So now what we're gonna do is, I love that picture of you. We are gonna have a panel of CHWs. We have, and Christian's gonna moderate the panel. He's our facilitator. We have Jesus Rosales. Louis. Yes. He was a youth promotor with us 2 years ago, and last year was a pro promotor. And he's going to talk a little bit about the work that he did in his last position and then now in his current position. He's awesome. And then we have Juliet Rosales. A youth promotora 2 years ago, and this last year, and currently she's one of our board of directors. So she's technically my boss. And she is one of the hardest working board of directors that we have in the world. She's amazing. She fights for our organization very hard, and we appreciate her. And then we have me. Thank you. I'm the program manager here at LSP, but yeah, you guys will learn a little bit more, and I'll pass it on to Christian. We're gonna sit right there. He's gonna ask a series of like 6 or so questions, but we also open it up to you guys to ask us any questions too. It doesn't just have to be about like CHW work. It could be like about our professional, academic.
Keep it cash.
Keep it cash. Let's just keep it cash. And then all of you who are on Zoom, at any point, feel free to utilize the chat, or feel free to unmute yourselves too. We want to hear your voices. And yeah, I'll just go sit and Christian, do your thing.
Yes. All right. So Magalli already laid that down. So as we go through this panel with these questions, if there's any questions that come up in your head that you would like to know and ask them, feel free to write it down on that piece of paper that you all have. That way, when we come back to it, you don't forget about that. Cool. And chat, you can do the same thing. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a question, and I'm going to have each one of you have space and time to answer it individually. So first question for you three, and we can start off with Juliet. So in your words, what is a CHW, and what does it look like for you?
Just makes me reflect everything that I've said. So basically, in my words, what is a CHW? What does it look like for me? I think it's someone who really provides like education resources to the community. You know, you're really educating your community. It's not even just giving resources, it's more than that too. Like with within my experience, because many, at least the population that I'm serving and working in right now is, many Latino population want to be listened. So it's just even listening, because no one's being heard nowadays for the needs that they want to be.
Cool. So, Jesus, in your words, what's CHW and what does that look like for you?
If I'm looking down my phone, because I have it right here. So the CHW for me, community health worker, it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of, I would say, honorable work, humbling work. What it looks for me is just someone bridging gaps between communities and also assessing disparities that are out there in the communities. Today I had a very in-depth conversation with a colleague in San Diego. So we're in the regional center, and she was just enlightened me even more so. Now that I'm in this position of a job as a community health worker, I'm still learning. So it's an ongoing process of learning new things, learning how to assess the people's needs. Realistically, the way I see it is I'm putting everyone else in front of me, no matter what. Because if I'm working, I love the structure of the 9 to 5. I'm not gonna lie, I love it because I personally love it because I'm able to say, you know what, from 9 to 5, I'm gonna put all my heart and soul into something that I like doing, and then from there on after, I'm gonna just do me, whatever it may be. But community health worker is just someone that's able to understand, it's dedicated, motivated, and a humbling individual. It does humble an individual once you start doing it, and you realize that you want to do it for the long run.
Thank you, Jesus. Magalli, what about you?
Actually, before I shared who they were as YPs and pros, but do you guys mind sharing where you worked
Oh.
and your titles? I totally spaced on that, sorry.
For sure. All right, so I'm the program coordinator or manager from the Great and Day Labor Center. It's a small town in Sonoma County near Sebastopol. And basically I serve domestic workers and labor workers. And basically I do a lot of my CHW type of work there, coordinate programs, invite people to come in, serve any way or any issues with the members. And we're also there to facilitate the process of employers hiring there as well. And usually the workers go out there to look for work as well. And we have a lot of know your rights type of education there. We also have a program for Rosales, which is wage theft. So if you know anyone, not just them, but not just our members, but anyone that you haven't been paid for work that you have done, we're willing to help you in your case and stuff, and connect you to the right people and resources. And I think 2-3 days ago, I made a year there. So yeah. And I was just remembering too, the program manager before, she was sitting here last year, this day too, and she was on training me, and now I'm here doing it. So.
And now she's in Yale in grad school.
Yeah, now she's in Yale. She was, her name's Rosales, and she even mentioned me too. I still remember, I was like, damn, I'm here, what she was doing as well. And she's going up in her second year, and she's doing a public health degree, her master's degree at Yale, full ride and everything.
Cool. So previously I worked at Verity. I got hired because of that. I always give them credit because they send me job descriptions and job information, and I graduated college and I was like, well, I don't know what I want to do, So I applied to Verity. Shout out to them. I worked there for a while as a bilingual prevention specialist, talking about sexual assault, rape, domestic violence, anything you could think of within that realm. And I also had the opportunity to work at Juvenile Hall along as a contract from Verity to give presentations at support groups along those individuals, males and females. So if any of y'all were in high school, you may have seen me through Verity in the little Zoom bots on your laptop, because I was the one giving the presentations. It was very, very interesting and intriguing. I love that job. Right now, I'm a participant choice coordinator. So what I do right now is I work with individuals with developmental disabilities. That could look like, actually, there's a school right here across the street. That school serves the population of individuals with developmental disabilities, autism, cerebral palsy, anything within that realm. So that's what I do. I provide services for them. in a specific case manager type in a specific program. There's a lot into it. I'm not gonna go into details, but I just do a lot of budget planning, spending planning, life choices, community vendors, and I just gather information for them to make the job a little bit easier. There's a lot of families, specifically within the Latino community, that don't like asking for help. And when it comes with autism and anything with developmental disabilities, it's very hard for them to ask for help. So my job is to make it easier for them.
This is the first I'm hearing about this too, so I love it.
Cool.
What was the question?
So I'll go back to the question. So the question is, in your words, Magalli, what's a CHW and what does it look like for you?
Okay, so a CHW and what it looks like for me is, it's gonna sound really cheesy, but it's actually you guys. It's anyone who takes the time out of their day when they could be doing literally anything else, but want to use that time to learn more about the community, to be able to serve the community at large, or to be able to support maybe someone at home. CHWs can be anyone who cares about their community. And that's why we focus a lot on the youth, because we want our youth to grow up and feel like they have a voice and can take up space in the places that they're in. And we also have CHWs who are a lot older too. Shout out to Stephanie's grandma is a CHW too, and has been her entire life. That's probably why Steph got into that work. Sometimes I see like my own mom as a CHW, like she's a professor, but she takes time to help link people up with other resources that exist. And then us, we're also CHW, so it's a lot to me.
Awesome. So we heard from them, 3 different CHWs. We heard about, the humbling experience with Jesus. We heard about Juliet mentioned, some of these people they're not heard. They want to be heard. And, just more than providing resources, in Magalli about the youth, which is all you. So just like anything in this world, there's going to be different motives and different reasons of why we do this work. It's really just finding what is the passion that lies behind it, whether it's wanting to help out my family, wanting to help out the youth, or whatever they just gone through. So while we think about that, what does it mean for you as you guys continue through this journey of becoming CHWs? So question number 2 we have, so I'm gonna start with this time.
Nice.
So where did you start as a CHW?
High school. I am 24 years old right now. I feel old saying that, but I'm not old, I'm young. I started in high school. I was about 17, I think. I had the opportunity to work, to be in an academy. I grew up in the Bay Area, so my high school had a Pacific Academy that surrounded itself around social justice, advocacy, grassroots organizations, and movements, and why and how they started. The Bay Area is filled with culture. The Bay Area is filled with individuals along that spectrum. So I started back in high school. I started developing material. I started developing ways that I myself, as a 16, 17-year-old, could be heard from the individuals that wouldn't want to hear me or wouldn't normally hear me in high school, right? I'm talking about teachers. I'm talking about older adults, right? Creating that power in a sense for myself and my peers and my colleagues and everyone that was in the academy alongside with me. Specifically, I think what I started, I can't remember the job description or the job name, but there is a community health center right across the street from my high school, and it's still there. And what I did was just teach and provide historical resources on why kind of ethnic studies is a major base for high school and middle school students, because that's the whole basis of why social justice academy is. So I was just giving them resources, having little conversations with them, trying to see how they were. 16-year-old talking to someone that's 14, 2-year age gap, as if I was something. But that little tiny opportunity to work alongside with people my age kind of helped me out to be comfortable talking, because a lot of people are shy when it comes to talking or voicing their opinions. So yeah.
And you're not old, because you're old, then you're calling me older.
And then you're calling me older.
Exactly.
I'm the oldest here now.
All right.
I'm the oldest in the office now.
Cool. So now move on to this question to Magalli. When did you start?
there's like moments in my life where I'm like, whoa, that was CHW work that I didn't even know that I was doing. A lot of that was just like this drive that I had to link people up with resources. Very resourceful. I like to say I was raised by wolves. But I pretty much raised myself when I was younger and then had to learn how to do a lot on my own. So when I had like friends or family who might have been in a position that I was in, I knew where to connect them, where to get like the best resources. So that's kind of where I started. But I also started like very like grassroots. My mom is very political, so I became really political. And I grew up like on the picket lines. I've been protesting my whole life. The picture that was up of me was actually me protesting at the Women's March a couple of years ago with Steph. She's kind of like that too. And I think in college is where it hit me. Like when I walked into that class that I was telling you guys about, it was a sociology class and I was learning about the social determinants of health. And yes, I learned about all these different things, but I didn't learn about the resources to address those things. So a lot of the knowledge I gained about resources to address social determinants of health, I learned on my own. And then I started linking people up to them. And then I took that knowledge with me up to my 4-year university and college and at Humboldt where I went to school. I learned about a lot of resources there and helped a lot of DACA students kind of get like better financial aid, better housing, better food, like better Mexican food, because Mexican food in Humboldt is trash. And then now in my master's program, that's a lot of the work that I do too. And of course, working with you all.
Thank you, Magalli. So now, Miss Juliet Rosales, when did you start?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I did a lot of work in high school as well. I kind of started more within the Health Careers Academy that I was a part of. And so it was usually just a group of us students through that academy who focused on a lot of different type of like public health issues or different type of health professions that you wanted to go into. And we were really involved in what was educating like different types of groups in the community, such as like, you know, the elementary schools. And we were always out there, you know, giving nutritional facts, information, creating the content as well. So that was really rewarding because I was able to like find ways that like how I wanted to create to educate others. And so like other generations could see like what other things are coming. So I started there, and then a lot of other work that I was doing too was I was part of the Dreamers Club. So basically I did a lot of education also with other schools regarding about like DACA and also like what their rights were, when their due dates were supposed to be also, and also like, you know, just giving, you know, sharing your stories and creating those projects for like the community, the city to see, you know, to like voice all these like laws and like concerns. And then, you know, like in college, I also became pretty involved as well and kind of lifting a club that was pretty dead. Like it wasn't really going anywhere as much. And so I started, you know, creating more like projects, content, trying to bring people to come to our EOP club and, you know, promoting like diversity, community there as well. And just kind of creating a space for people to, you know, like BIPOC community to come in and actually make it their space, you know. So yeah, and then also, you know, what you guys are doing now here as well at LSP, I felt like I grew more here as well because at least the track that I was in, it was a new track. I think it's called Vivienda now here. But at that time, I just started feeling more like, oh, I want to take on this, I want to take on that. And the projects that we took on, like talking with the mayor. I mean, Dre was in my group too, so those were really fun. And you get a lot of like when you're being heard and you're actually like educating, like that's just really rewarding. Like I really love that experience. And so that's why I love the work that I do.
Yeah, and then like now some of the projects that we did. So as we continue to start thinking about like what are some things that I want to do, like if it's talking to the mayor or like you know, what horizon you want to expand. You know, you're starting your year, you're going to become CHW, so something to kind of think about. Now, before we go on to the third question, does anyone have any questions or comments and on the chat that they want to ask regarding those two things on like the CHW work? Luis, Marie, Kimberly, Shadia, no? Anthony? All right. So then we'll move on to the third question. So Magalli, I'll start with you this time. So what has been the most challenging part of advising clients or the community on health issues?
Probably like the first year that I started, we were like tabling at an event, and this is when we just had like the salud mental track, so we just focused like a lot on like mental health. And that's actually like why I started working at LSP, because I'm really passionate about mental health, particularly passionate about like suicide prevention awareness. And we were tabling, and some guy came up and was like, mental health, like that's not real. And I was like, bro, are you kidding me? Like, I was like, this is mental health. And like, there's been like such a stigma about mental health, like especially in like the Latinx community, that I've like seen in like my own home and like with my own family, like not really wanting to heal from like past traumas, not really wanting to like focus on like, you know, furthering themselves because there's such a stigma and like asking for help. And I'm very open and transparent about it. And just kind of getting that pushback in like different spaces was really hard for me. But practice makes perfect. So I actually practiced hearing about like what other YP had to say. Luckily for me, at that point, another YP stepped in and she was like, you know, mental health is real. Like we talk a lot about like our physical health, but your mind also needs to be healthy too. And she talked about all the different things that go on in your mind and why it's so important for us to destigmatize mental health. And I was just in awe. And I was like, oh my God, I need to like start using that now. So that was really difficult for me, like at first, but with time, I've become like more passionate about the work, that I actually enjoy when people come up and try to say something like otherwise, especially now about like vaccines and stuff too. So it was hard at first, but I actually really prefer it now, because then it opens up the door to have a conversation and maybe kind of break down any barriers or any challenges that our community or other communities might face as well, where they don't see something that we're talking about as real or something of importance. So that was challenging, but it's challenges bring opportunities.
It also brings up growth too. So Juliet, would you like to repeat the question, or?
No, I got it.
You got it?
Yeah. This was a good one. It really reminds me a lot like of the work that I'm doing, because I put 3 points of like wanting advice and deciding for others. And I say this because with the population that I'm working with right now, and I feel like I see this a lot in the Latino community too, is like you really need to be careful. Like I don't believe in giving advice. That makes sense. And I think they tell you that too as a CHW, that you're not supposed to give advice. They're, you know, you're really supposed to reassure, like what they want to see. There's like a system and a way where you're supposed to say things, but you're not supposed to tell them what to do, because then you don't, that's an outcome for somebody's life, you know, and you just do not want to say in that. So I see that a lot in my day-to-day of work, and I try not to give advice. And then also like the community that I work with, there's a lot of like, oh, but I should do it this way, right? Like, you know, and I'm like, you know what? I think you have the ability to decide for yourself and what you want. These are your options that we're giving you, but you have every right. And people want that reassurance, because they are so used to people doing things for them. And that's the thing with the Latino community, is like, they're like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna translate for my parent all the time, and they're like, oh no, take this call for me or do this for me. But it's like, I'm trying to find ways to educate them in order for them to do it on their own as well, and teaching them. So it's really hard, you know, because that's something I really want to do and really change. But I know I'm like battling with that because like I know it's part of like our culture almost too. But I try it every day because I also try to say like, look, this is your value, and this you can decide for yourself. I'm not deciding for you. Those are some good things for me.
Yeah, anyone else had that problem where you have to like constantly teach someone and then ultimately have to do the task for the parent or relative? So it's, it's a lot of work, but this kind of work also requires a lot of patience. So Jesus,
Yes.
what about you?
Most challenging part is asking for help, I would say. Because like Juliet was saying, like you don't want to tell them go get help. You want to tell them you need to get help, but you should might as well what's the word I'm looking for? Suggest that, oh, maybe there are resources out there for you to get help. Simply because like the comunidad Latina, there's a lot of we shy away from help. I remember growing up too, like my parents were very scared of asking for help. And I'm still seeing this now where they shy away from asking me help when it comes for services for developmental disabilities, which by any means, the state of California has a ton, thousands, millions, billions of funds for these individuals, right? So I get that help if they need it. And same thing when it came to when I was working for Verity, there was unfortunately a lot of cases of sexual assault, domestic violence, and I'm sorry, I should have said trigger warning, but trigger warning. There's a lot that goes into it that a lot of la comunidad latina doesn't want to ask for help, right? Because it goes back to what Magalli was saying about mental health, right? How is someone's mental health going to be after the fact of a traumatizing event, right? It comes PTSD. There comes a lot of after effects, right? It's not going to show right then and there, but it's going to show after and within the years, and even further within the years, right? So, I always have permission from my parents, from my mom specifically, to share her story about how she does have PTSD. She still does. It's still something that's causing, it's affecting her. But it's just the fact that, unfortunately, when she was younger, they didn't know how to ask for help. They didn't know how to use their voice or speak up. And it was all because, deal with it. You're fine. And it's just back in Mexico. But it's the same thing here, right? Different countries, the same mentality, same generation mentality. So, it's always hard to, advise like, go get help and ask for help because we're not used to help, right? We're used to people just doing things for us sometimes, my parents are the same way. Slowly but surely, as you get to work with whatever community you were going to work with, it's going to be really easy for them to know and understand that people like us, community health workers, are people that are to be trusted for them because there's a whole trust boundary and more that goes into it. Yeah.
Yeah, like during your interviews, like we talked about a lot of times like mental health and destigmatizing it, and in our cultures and our families not being able to really express ourselves because a lot of times our parents they give us pushback of keep your mind busy, just keep your head in the books, ve a trabajar, this, that, and the other. Don't think about it. The more you think about it, the more you're going to just be spiraling in your head. In reality, it's not the case. It's when you put things aside and you choose not to deal with it, that's when these things get, they get worse. And it's going to require patience. It's going to require asking for help. It's going to require trying to lead into these uncomfortable conversations and seeing how, even if I can't convince this person, which you probably can't, because it's hard to change someone's perspective, but how can I speak to someone in a way where they can at least listen and take some of this information in? So I'm going to go back to you, Jesus. So in the future, what would you like to see it change with CHW work?
Acknowledgement, more acknowledgement for CHW workers. We do a lot of work, and y'all are going to do a lot of work that's very honorable, and sometimes it's just like there, right? And people are going to. I remember in college, I went to college, Juliet too. Well, I was in college, we were taking the same Chicano Latino studies class, so I majored in CALS. And my boys will always tell me like, oh, why are you in CALS? Like, you're not gonna make money in CALS when you graduate. What are you gonna do with your major? Like, what do you do with this and that? And that was very discouraging for me. But I graduated, thankfully with like a 2 point something GPA. But I graduated, right? I got my BA. But at the end of it, it was just, why are people so discouraging about the fact of learning about human sciences, right? Social sciences, that bachelors of arts, things like that. And it just goes back, and I keep on thinking about this every single day, is why are we not recognized as enough as we should be? The recognition should be there because, in a sense, we are the ones that are upholding the community. We are the ones upholding our parents, or our parents' friends, or our friends even. Right? A lot of people, if people are in STEM, science, whatever, power to you, because that's hard. And I failed biology in high school. I've never taken the class ever again in my life. But that's interesting. I love it that people have that passion for themselves. But money does run our society, economic, government, politics, et cetera, et cetera. But how are we helping our people still stay sane or stay rooted within our own community? Who's doing that work, and why are they doing that work? Why are we letting ourselves sit down there and listen through people's stories to keep on doing that work? It's not because I don't care about the money. Money is money. I need to survive, so I got to pay rent. But it's because I love knowing that I'm still able to help someone survive another day, listen, be able to be heard. So I just wish that we had that more recognition that it is humbling work. We don't get paid as much, but do I love it? Of course I do.
And that's the reality of it. That's the reality of it. You can have an accounting job. I have a friend. They have to work the whole day, and then they have 9 o'clock. All right, I made my dinner, and start it up the next day. And sometimes, money's nice, but it doesn't feel good. But with work like this, CHW, it's like when you see the impact that you make in people and in the communities and groups, whatever it is, that feeling you get is way much more rewarding than finishing a 12-hour shift and getting a fat paycheck, because after a while, it won't be that nice. So Magalli, what would you like to be? What would you like to see be changed in the future for CHW?
I hope to live in a world one day where we don't have CHWs, because everything is equitable and people have access to everything. But in the meantime, kind of like what Jesus said, more recognition. I also want more pay for our CHWs. A lot of our CHWs, especially our older promotoras and promotores, are undocumented brothers and sisters. And because of that, we have to pay them in stipends that are really small for living in California. Sonoma County is expensive it's very expensive. I have to watch myself. It's very expensive to live here. And if we can't pay our CHWs more, then we need to talk to our grant funders, and we need to talk about pathways to citizenship. We need to talk about, supporting families with their housing, supporting families with food, anything to ease the tension off of them, because our CHWs are doing a lot of the backbone work in Sonoma County, and that's something that you guys will learn too. And then for you all, I want you guys all to go into places where you have always dreamed about being in. I want you guys to really shoot for the stars. I struggled a lot. I was a late bloomer with my education, and I was just I'm just gonna do this, and then that's that. I never would have thought that I would have been doing the work that I've been doing now, or even be in graduate school. And it blows my mind that we don't have more people in politics that look like us or talk like us or come from the places we come from. I would love to see more CHWs in political positions too. I find it crazy that we live in what used to be Mexico, and we've never had a Latinx or a Latino or Chicano president or vice president or mayor. We're in Santa Rosa. We need to have our people in these political positions to actually make institutional change and policy change. So that's what I want to see. I'm running for mayor next year. No, I'm just kidding. No, I got too many skeletons in my closet. And I'm too crazy. They don't want me. But that's what I want to see. All of our CHWs, all of you guys do, is to push yourself in education, push yourself in your careers, really invest in yourselves, and invest in your community and the people around you. And these two are living proof of it. I'm just so excited for the work that you guys are doing, and it's just awesome to hear how the last 2 years have been, and I can't wait to hear from you guys about how the next year will be and the year after that. So that's what I hope to see.
Now, Juliet, what about you? What would you like to be changed in the future at the CHW?
Man, I'm gonna piggyback on a lot of things you guys said, because especially on that pay though too, because we're so valuable. You know, everyone's like, this is valuable work, and you need to have, you know, we need to be recognized more in the community. You know, it's just you're putting the needs of others first. And you're this person who not only, you know, you're putting their needs, but you need to really, you know, have that like patience and humbleness and like the nacentismo to be this type of person. So, and it's so much hard work because you see the day-to-day people's lives, what they're going through. Sometimes even personal stories come up that are private, and you know, and you're listening about somebody's life, and then like you're impacting in so many different ways, and you know, and you're also part of the change that they also want to make as well. That's either politically or in health or in education, or seeing them grow as well and being involved in their lives. So I really definitely need to see a lot more like recognition, because this is very huge and valuable work. Yeah, the race too.
Yeah, I think we can all agree on that. The pay, no one's ever gonna complain for more pay. But you know, it's the thing, like I said, going back, like it's the work that you do, like that feeling you get of like, wow, I made a difference. And you know, whether it's like the recognition too, like we do a lot. And even like if you choose to continue this work or if you have different career paths, I mean, you're gonna take this knowledge with you wherever you go. So it's just like, you know, listening to people and being able to kind of understand like what they're dealing with and empathize with them and seeing like, you know, how can I be a support? Or maybe it's like, hey, I know a friend, or I know a relative that may be able to help me. Just, you know, building that network. So now the next question I'm gonna ask you all is gonna be, what experience do you feel prepared for your work at the CHW? And Julia, I want to go first.
Sure. I guess the experiences where I'm working in now at the Great and Day Labor Center, oh my God, everything that I've been through there, I think I really started analyzing and practicing a lot my active listening skills, my patience. I really considered myself before I was not patient. I was like, how am I going to do this job? And I love the things I do, but I'm not patient. Like I always said, I was, you know, I served my Latino community in so many different ways. But when I got there and I saw different mentalities and different beliefs and the things that I'm very like, you know, hardcore trying to change, but at the same time, like find other ways for people to decolonize minds and everything, you know, that I'm really passionate about. And I go in there, it's so strong. And I don't know, sometimes at first I thought, I was like, these people aren't ready for me. I don't know if they really are. And like, but I felt like I have made some progress and some impact, but there was many times where, you know, I had to, you know, I was like, well, why don't you think this way? Or like not think this way, but this is another option, you know, I think I've also had experiences where they're like, you know what, I think it's so unfair that you think that you believe that this certain belief and everything, and you're Latina and all of this, and this person helped day labor workers and whatever. And I was like, yeah, but I have history and I have a studio that backs me up, you know? And I respect what your belief is, but this is what I believe, and I don't shy away from it, you know? And that's really hard with what I work with, but it's just rewarding because I want to give other options, you know, because the group that I'm seeing there is like, I need people to progress more. And I want to be a part of that, like progression, and like, you know, for them to grow and have other options. So yeah.
You answered it.
No, you answered it, yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, so what experiences do you feel prepared for as a CHW work?
Being here when I applied to as a youth promotor. So I grew up in the Bay Area. I came to college, and when I was in college, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna live life. You know, I'm gonna just do what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna enjoy college because what I was an hour away from the Bay, and I was just so happy to be away from my parents. I was so happy. I love my mom, I love my dad, you know, but man, when you get that liberty, it's that liberty, you know. It's good. It's really good. But I graduated. I graduated college, and I met what was the position called? The ED. I met the ED, and I met this other person that was cool with the ED and the executive director. And I went up to them and I was like, "Yo, what's up? Give me a job." And they were like, "Oh, well, you know what? Cool. Just apply to this." And I applied, and I'm very straightforward because, in all honesty, I wanted a job. But you know, being here, someone that's not from this county is super hard, really hard. I'm barely learning stuff. I think we had a meeting like a few weeks ago, and I was like, "What? I didn't know that was going on in Sonoma County." I mean, what's that cheese? And you know, I love the beach and whatnot. Like I love talking. But you know, being here did help me out a lot because I was able to put my face on the screen on Zoom and present myself as Jesus Rosales. I have my BA. I graduated from Sonoma State, and I'm from the Bay Area. I was actually I'm from the Bay Area, no matter what. Hardcore. We're from the Bay. Yeah. So we have the same last name, but we like did not meet each other until we got here to college. But anywho, so just being here, you know, I'm getting a lot of sidetracked. Just being here, putting myself out there and networking and talking to people and actually seeing, you know, that this is who this person is in Sonoma County, this is who this person is in Sonoma County. Santa Rosa specifically works around this, Santa Rosa does that, Vernon Park does this, Cataya does that, etc. We do whatever you want to think about it. You know, that's what helped me out as a CHW here, you know, because they got connections, believe it or not. And if I wasn't here at LSP making connections, then I don't know what I'd be doing. I have the tools. I'm not gonna lie, like I have the tools basically, and I'm able to, you know, do good work. But how was I able to do good work without networking? Because networking is a lot.
Very key, very key. And of course, we all love chisme, right? Like,
Love it.
panecito, café, chisme, get to tea, whatever, ready, right?
Twitter.
And then, gotta shout out my Bay. Always gotta shout out the Bay. Unless we're talking about basketball. We're talking about LA.
I don't know, man.
All right, Magalli. So, what do you feel your experiences prepared you for as a work?
I'm gonna change this answer a little bit and make it more about like graduate school, because I know some of us are interested in graduate school. Some of us are interested in it. So I'm in my master's right now. It's a 3-year program, but I was a psycho and decided to do a 2-year accelerated. Like Stephanie did, hers was a 2-year, she did a 1-year accelerated. Full-time student, full-time job right here, full-time dog mom, full-time like best girlfriend in the world, full-time, like everything. But in my master's program, a lot of the stuff that we're learning, I'm living it and doing it right now. And you guys are living it and doing it right now. So like a couple months ago, one of the things that I had to do in my program was QPR training, question, persuade, refer, for suicide prevention awareness. And that's actually one of the trainings that you guys get with us, and we pay you to take it. So this was the first time that like a lot of like my peers in my cohort, there's only 12 of us. I'm one of 3 Latinos. And that was the first time that I even like heard of anything like that. And I was like, I've been doing QPR for like the last like 4 years. Like, how is this the first time you guys are hearing about this and you're in healthcare? And a lot of the conversations we have are centered around like equity and cultural humility. And I'm like, I live and breathe that because of the work that I do. So, and so many times in school, I kind of get to sit back a little bit more and not work as hard as some of my peers, because a lot of the training that we do in class, like I do it with you guys. You guys are going to do it. So you're already going to be multiple steps ahead by the time you ever want to be in positions like that we're in, because we do offer those trainings and that support. So that's really helped me, and vice versa. A lot of the things that I've been learning in school, I've been able to implement into this program. So it's kind of like a give and take. I also, I don't know if this is answering the question, but like, I encourage everyone to read, read a lot. I will send you guys like books to read that'll just like blow your hair back. But a lot of, I lifeguarded, I'm getting off track. I lifeguarded one year and I read like 14 books in one summer because it was a 4-foot deep pool and like no one's drowning on my watch. So I just read a ton, and I think that really prepared me for like the work that I'm in right now, because it was all in like social determinants of health and like how to access resources and stuff. And it was just so interesting to me that felt like so empowered to go out and like make a change in my community. And I think that's why I decided to follow through with my education, and with the work that I'm doing here. And eventually I want to work myself out of a job and have one of you guys take over. So I think that answered the question. I also have ADHD, so my mind is like somewhere else half the time.
Yeah, you answered the question. You just forgot to mention you're a full-time sushi enthusiast.
Yes, full-time sushi enthusiast, and I'm also an artist. I do a ton of art on the side. I do sculptures, murals, tattoos. I do a lot on the side. So you kind of have to like compartmentalize the things that you're passionate about. But my work at LSP literally always comes first because of the youth and because I'm just so passionate about like what you guys create. I'm like your #1 fan.
She's not lying, like honestly. She told me like before y'all showed up today. No, I'm kidding. But really, so yeah, like, you know, it's always nice to see like the work that you do, and then kind of like as you're practicing it, kind of seeing like the community and how like, you know, you can read a book, but when you don't see like the results, not results, but like kind of see like in person, like how it's actually being done, or what's like there. Like if you come over here, you see the homeless population, read a book about Sonoma County homeless population, and you see that and you're like, wow, I read this and like I'm seeing it now. It's a whole different perspective than just someone just telling you the information. So that's also something like, you know, take away from, like, you're gonna take this course, it's gonna be things you're not gonna know or you're gonna be unsure of, and that's perfectly fine, because that's literally what we are as humans. We're always going to be learning at each and every step as we go. So like Shui mentioned, he had like a meeting 3 weeks ago and was like, wow, I didn't even know that. And like it's always going to continue, and that's just, you know, the nature of us being human. So last final question for panelists is, how has the past year, or scratch the past year, how has the pandemic affected your work as a CHW? And I'll start with you, Magalli.
So when I first came onto LSP, it was like all in person. Like Zoom didn't even exist, or at least I don't think it existed. We met for like all meetings, like in person, everything was in person. And then the pandemic happened when we were at a Brown Issues conference in Sacramento. It was like 3 days in. And I was one of those believers. I was like, 2 weeks, like, and then it'll be over. Like, this is fake. No, it wasn't, because I even got COVID and it sucked. Vegas. Anyways, and we had to switch to be like 100% online. And we did not take any breaks. Like, we literally switched from being in person to 100% online. Like, me and Stephanie taught ourselves how to do everything online in like a day, and had to switch our entire program to online. And that was really difficult, but everyone else was learning with us too. So it made it a little bit easier. And in our youth, you guys are incredibly resilient. And I want to just acknowledge that. Like, you guys are incredibly resilient. But I also want to acknowledge that after resiliency comes healing. So, you know, after you're done taking care of everyone else, who's going to take care of you. And that's like where we really want to be into. This last year or two, we've been doing like hybrid. I hope to do like more in person, because I love in person. It's just so much better. We're wearing our masks. And then, yeah, so it was just really hard to do a Zoom online. And we heard that a lot from the youth too, that, you know, they wish that there would be more opportunities in person. So that's why I encourage, like, come to our like meetings, come to like our events that we do in person. Like, our #1 goal is to keep you guys safe, but we also want you to get like the most out of this experience too. But with hybrid too, you know, that's why we like to do the breakout rooms and have you all participate with like your cameras on and your mics on, because you get 1 year of being a youth promoter, and that year goes by really fast. And then, you know, you can also apply to be YP leads and pro promotores, and that's different responsibilities and stuff too. But yeah,
The pandemic was definitely tough on all of us, and it was tough on our families too. I remember when the pandemic first happened, it really hit me when I had a cousin in Mexico die and I couldn't go. And I was like, this freaking sucks. Like, I can't be with my family right now. Cause it just wasn't safe. And then we hear that from like everybody too. Everybody was going through like the same things that we were going through. And we were still like expected to work at like 110%. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that. You can't do 110% in anything, by the way. Like 100% is capacity. Your phone doesn't go to like 110% on battery. And when it's 100%, that thing is hot. Like you need to take a break. So we're trying to work at like 85%. I'm definitely like trying to practice that. And I want you guys to practice working at 85% too. Give yourself time to rest. I went off on a tangent. Next person.
How was the pandemic? Well, I started working during the pandemic. Pandemic, yeah. I started working during the whole situation. Let's say, it sucked because I'm very much of a social person. I love talking and I talk too much. So I'm sorry, but I'm not really sorry. But I love talking, right? I love communicating with people. And then communication, actually, that's my answer. Communications, it was terrible, right? Because how are we able to communicate like on the phone, through FaceTime, through Zoom? And then some people got spotty Wi-Fi. Some people, they don't have Wi-Fi. They have to stay at the corner of a Taco Bell. I'm not sure y'all saw that picture from the beginning with like the little kids had to bring out their laptops and they were at the corner of Taco Bell just doing homework. I'm not sure y'all saw that. Yeah, that was crazy. That's sad, right? How are we supposed to manage stuff like that? Basic needs, right? Air, but no, house, shelter, water, etc. Something my teacher used to tell me. But
Maslow's hierarchy.
yeah, exactly. A triangle. But which is very difficult just being able to communicate. You know, I am here to provide resources. I am here because I studied college and I studied what I wanted to earn my major in, my degree in, but yet I'm having trouble with this one small thing that ended up being the biggest problem in the whole wide world, and it still is in a minute, micro, macro scale, is communicating. Right? So you need to communicate with people to let them know that this is what's going on, this is out there. Just the loss of communication, the loss of being able to be upfront with people, like being around people, right? I love being around people. I love talking. I love socializing. I love exchanging ideologies and doing that from home when I'm home 24/7 already. That was a hassle. I hated it, and I still do. Because I'm home, I'm expected to. So my schedule is: I wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning. I go to the gym. I get back. I get back and I start work like at 8:30. Right, from 8:30 to 5, I'm back on my laptop. I'm doing work at home, which is terrible because I'm always home. My home is my sanctuary. I'm supposed to feel like it's a safe space. I get off at 5. I go back to the gym. I work out like 7:30. I come back home. Once again, I'm home. Right, and it's just like this feeling of like my home's not really my home anymore, because my home is used as a product of work, and that was just a very something that I just had to deal with, right? Because it sucked. I love being away from home because there's a reason why home is far away, because it's supposed to be just a safe sanctuary. Yeah, I went off on a tangent too. It's cool. Y'all got the point. No.
Juliet, what about you? How's the pandemic changed you? Has changed your work as a CHW?
It got me really busy though where I was at. At least our members, it wasn't an option for them not to come, because they obviously come to the center to look for work. So we had a lot of like busy work with them, doing a lot of COVID vaccine outreach, and it was just always surrounded by COVID and actually just like doing a lot of follow-up calls and seeing if they're okay, and doing that type of outreach, giving out tests, and doing the day-to-day type of work. I was very limited to many projects that I wanted to do, and I was always really like rejected a lot. Like, no, we can't do this, we can't do that, or this is gonna change, and all of that. So it was really hard because I came out, coming over here, moving to Santa Rosa, for this job, I had all these like goals and aspirations to do so many things. And for the pandemic and everything was just focused on COVID, I was just like, fuck, well, like, anyway, sorry. And I was like, it was stressing me out because it was just all like surrounded by that. And I wanted to do so many things. So it was really stressful because of that. And then I do remember that, like, even starting with the pandemic, our internship was just all on Zoom. It was all on Zoom. And I was still living at home, and you know, my environment at home, I love my family and everything, but I just really needed my privacy. It was very chaotic at times. I needed my own space, and just being behind that screen, you know, I mean, just being an LSP and everything there, like that was my escape place. But then I was just like, man, like, why can't we be in person? And I wanted to just be out and about, like, cause like I always used to be like just out and about. And so like it really took a big toll on like my mental health and just how all this stuff. And but yeah, I just remember always trying to, you know, keep busy, try to like set goals for myself, attainable goals. And, you know, because in the long run, like now, you know what I mean, we're still in the pandemic, but thankfully I'm able to do now the things that I want to do, and my work plans and everything like expanded more to things. And but yeah, it's been really hard, to be honest, really, really hard, because you see a lot, you know. And then also just seeing the stories of the members that I'm working with, people passing away, people crying, and people just like very desperate, just like, and they just want to be listened, you know, they just want that reassurance and stuff. So there was a lot of like emotions, feelings everywhere with a lot of people.
Yeah, and a lot of times what you see now is like, you'll probably experience this, like some of you, when you do like community engagement, like tabling, whatever, like sometimes people might just come up to you and then ask for a resource, and then you were like, oh, this is what we have. And then next thing you know, they're spilling their heart out to you. And you're like, whoa, like that's a lot. And you know, it happens, like you all have obviously gone through the pandemic, and we're still going through it. And you know, it's the challenges you've all faced and probably are still facing right now with the difficulties and the challenges. And you get to see like what other people are. So we already heard, like, you know, with our panelists, like how it affected them as like, you know, as a CHW, or you're gonna hear community members like talking about it. I had someone come up to me and be like, my house is on fire in South Tahoe, this and that, like my husband's in the hospital and my son's like in the hospital too. Mind you, I was working at Costco at the time. I wasn't even here. This is future. Shout out, trigger word. And it was like, I'm like, here's your receipt. And that's what happens. Like, you're gonna be dealing, like, no matter where you go, people will be kind of just spilling out with their whole feelings. And it's just, you know, knowing like how to deal with it, how to talk to them, and, you know, keep going. But you will all experience it, and with the training, you'll kind of understand. So we have a few minutes left. So what questions do you have for our panelists, if you have any? Do we have any comments that we have? Anyone on Zoom that may want to ask anything to Magalli, Jesus, or Juliet? Chewy.
Any questions, you guys? There's no such thing as a dumb question.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be about the panel questions.
It could just be about them personally too.
People like,
Like, why didn't Chewy go into comms if you like soccer so much?
I did not know what comms was.
No, you would have been
It
here.
was up to my third year where someone was like, oh, I'm a comms major. I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah, that was me.
I don't know what that is, but cool.
It probably was me.
It was my fraternity brother. Weird thing enough, he was a comms major.
So anyone have anything? Any questions about anything we talked about? I know it's a lot of information. Have some time to process it. So
we have advice we can offer.
yeah,
I give good advice.
and good shoes. Man.
I do have good cheese. I know it all.
Anything in the chat?
Not yet.
Ask us.
You have three really amazing resources, people, LSP community, like right in front of you that you can ask questions to. So this is a really great opportunity to just ask anything that you'd like about the CHW experience, or, you know, Jesus and Juliet, just to reiterate, they were promotores too. They were sitting right where you sat. And so if there's anything you want to ask just relating to their experience and how maybe it helped them get to where they are today, like this is a perfect chance to do that too.
Like, how has it been like separating your like private life from like your work life? Because I know as social workers, like you talk a lot about other people's life, but like, what if like you're having a bad day? Like, how do you separate?
Oh man, that's a hard one. I am sorry. My poor partner, his ear gets topped off. He gets like so invested in like the work we do. He's like, hey, how'd it go with that? I'm like, how'd you know about that? He's like, girl, you're talking in your sleep. It's actually, I think I do a pretty good job of like separating like my social life with like my work life. I do talk about my work a lot with like my friends and my family, and it's mostly just like how passionate I am about the work that I do. Like, there are like bumps and stuff. You know, we've actually experienced like a couple of like hard times like these last couple of months, just with like the workload and stuff. But my heart and my soul is like in this organization and like with the YP. I've like never had anything like negative to say about like our youth promotores or anything like that. If anything, I'm just so stoked to talk about them all the time. And we have some YP who are like 21 and over, and sometimes like I'll see them out and they're just so excited to see us, and I'm so excited. We actually saw one at Starbucks today, and she was like, "Wow, Stephanie!" Like, "Oh my god, I'm so excited to see you." She was excited to see Sarai too. So, you know, I'm a Sonoma County native, like in every sense of the word. I've lived here my whole life, so I know I'll eventually like meet your parents, your friends, and stuff like that. So sometimes I see like parents out and about too, and I'll just go run up and talk to them. It's not too difficult for me to keep them separate, but I also like it when they intertwine, because there's a reason why I do this job. You know, like all of us are here because maybe at some point in our life we haven't had it easy. So this is why we do the work that we do. And I like to bring that into like, is it the fruition? Is that the word? I like to bring that like into fruition. I don't think that's a word. I like to bring that forward in like the work that I do, because I like to have things mesh and to be able to be like an example that you can, you know, find something that you're good at and you're passionate about, make money off of it, change some lives.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, I mean, I do separate it. I do my own stuff, you know, like you guys know I'm a coach at the gym over here, so I'm always at 5 in the morning and I'm over there at night. I got keys, so if it's like midnight, I'll just go in there by myself and do what I gotta do. But I mean, you never really, you do separate work. You gotta find hobbies. You gotta find things to do. I am still into some skincare routine. That's interesting. You know, go to Ulta, put in your phone number for the points. You feel me? Now I'm alone. The ordinary, I get the good stuff.
You told me about free workout together at the gym, and I'm like,
yeah. If y'all have any questions about gym and like supplement and nutrition, I'm not the fittest, but like I know how to maintain my body very well. I'm healthy. Healthy is a relative term for everyone. I got you. I know how to work all over that. But what was I gonna say? Oh, the same thing. You know, you don't really ever stop being a social worker. I mean, I guess you do, but the thing is, like, I find so much joy seeing. There's this one person this kid he's not a kid, but this individual that was in juvie, and I just saw him the other day, like the same thing. And I was so happy to see him outside of juvie, because like in there you're in juvie, like you got your one room, your four walls, you got this schedule, this and that. And when you see them outside, you're like, damn, like this person really out here like living the life. It's dope, you know? And I saw one of my old clients from my old job at Becoming Independent. Well, that's where I work with developmental disabilities. This guy he has schizophrenia, but I was surprised he recognized me. And I saw him at Walmart. I was like, dude, what's up? And it's just, I just get like a good feeling, you know, just seeing them outside of work, because I'm like, well, like, look at you, you know, you're living life, you know, you're enjoying yourself at the best of the
For me, I'm still practicing that sometimes too, because I don't know, I have that habit of also bringing a lot to my household. That's either with like my family or my partner, and I'm just like, oh my God, I can't believe they said this, or like, how would they believe that? Like, I'm just so passionate, and I'm just like, I have these conversations, or like, oh, this happened and that happened, and if I did it this way, or I can change this, and so, and that those conversations go in about like work everywhere, you know, it's either in like also my friend groups and stuff, and you know, I'm still practicing to kind of just like push it away a little bit, you know, because like my self-care is obviously first. I mean, certain things, you know, that I put, you know, that I do for fun. I'm taking on like this whole new thing of like making desserts and baking. Before I used to tell people, I'm like, don't trust me doing this because I can cook, but I can't bake. But I don't know, I just started doing like baking. I did like a peach cobbler, some cake, and then I'm trying to see if I can, because one time I made a cheesecake that was so bad. And so, you know, doing some little fun things and stuff like that. But yeah, it's still a bit hard because there's just so many things like that I just like to talk about my work or like what I want to change. But I always have to remind myself, like, no, like leave this and do something fun and go out and have fun or whatever. And well, I mean, some of you know, like I've noticed, like I am pregnant, so like I'm doing a lot of different projects within like preparing for like my baby coming and everything. So that's pretty fun. So, yeah.
I guess like, just like one more thing is like, we are not our jobs. Our jobs are us, okay?
Yeah.
Like I model my job like who I am as a person. Like I try to live like as authentically as I can and then bring that forward. The things that I'm interested in, the things that I didn't have like growing up, the things that I saw lacking, that's how we create this internship. And it's like the same with you guys. Like we want you guys to authentically be yourselves and then create off of that because that's what makes it so unique. It's because we're all so unique.
I'm gonna say something real quick of what Magalli just said. Not further, we did this thing where, you know, we had interviews and whatnot, et cetera, et cetera. But someone asked like, oh, how do you know like this job is for you? And it's the exact same thing. Like if you're able to be yourself in an interview and you're able to explain yourself and not code switch as much as you would, then that job is for you, right? If I'm able to just dress the way I dress, talk the way I talk, and I'm like, I goof around a lot, I would say, but like if I'm able to be myself at a job, like, you know, I'm gonna enjoy the job outside of work environments because that's who I am. I don't want to change myself for a position, you know. So, yeah, I just wanted to hop up on it.
Cool. So I want to be mindful of time because we went a little bit over. But is anyone has any other questions or comments? We can definitely have those, like when we have our break, you want to come and ask Magalli, Chewy, or Juliet, so there's still time, but I think we're ready for a break, right, Stephanie?
Yeah, I think we have a 5-minute break now.
Yes, we have a 5-minute break until 6:25. We can do like 6:28, 7, 5 minutes.
Okay. All right, so I know there's a lot of information, so break, get up, do whatever you like, talk, move around.
Thank you. Clap, 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 clap.
To our panelists.
Okay,
Talk.
can you hear me, Steph?
Yeah.
I'm assuming yes. Okay, perfect. So Stephanie is gonna share screen again. Okay, welcome back. So now we're getting to one of my favorite and least favorite parts about the internship, which is time logs. It's my favorite because I love getting you guys paid. It's my least favorite because I'm the one who has to do it all. So time logs, definitely, if you guys have something to write with or write on, write this down, because it's super important. I have like 40 that I need to do right now. So your youth, yes, take notes. Your youth promotor stipend schedule. So right now, we're in Q1, which is April 1st through August 31st. And it's due September 7th. So we pay you guys in quarters, like we talked about, and usually at the end of each quarter, you have like a week or so to turn in your time logs. So everything that you've done with us so far, you've gotten paid for. Sitting here right now, Noche de Padres y Amigos, the CHW orientation. I think that's all we've had so far. Yes, go ahead.
To stop the stigma count?
Stomp the stigma, if you want to stomp the stigma, yes, things like that count. Everything that you do with us counts. All of this information can also be found in a Google Drive, and I send you guys so many reminders as it gets closer to. So just remember that. And the first time log is gonna be kind of hard to do, not gonna lie. You're gonna be like, oh my God, I totally forgot what I did 2 months ago. I totally forgot what this event was. Magalli, can you like help me figure out what this was? Don't worry, I got you. But then you're gonna practice your time management. You're gonna practice like the things that you need to do, and it's gonna be so much easier. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's take a closer look. So this is what, why did I put this twice? Okay, so this is what your time log actually looks like. It's a Google sheet that you can also download through Excel. On all of your information, sorry, all of your information gets filled out. So your name, your address where you live, because we mail checks to you. If you prefer to pick them up at the office, like that's totally fine too. If you move by any chance, like let us know so your check doesn't get bounced back to us. And the dates are already put in there when we send these to you. Your phone number and your email, and then the date right there, the date, that's where the date of the event was that you did, or the training, or the homework that you did, or the CHW class. Thank you, Stephanie's highlighting it with her mouse. And then the activity is right there next to it. So just the title of it. So like, for example, today is, you would put June 17th, 2022. Activity would be June Youth Promotor monthly meeting. And then next to that, you have the option of either putting it as paid training hours or community engagement hours. For the most part, you guys are gonna have paid training hours for the first couple of months in the internship, before we get into community engagement, because we want to be able to train you guys before we, deal with the community. So this would be 3 hours paid training if you've been here from start to finish. Or if you come in a little bit later, it'd be like 1 hour or an hour and a half or an hour and 15 minutes. We try to just round and like make it the best for you guys, and I'll show you how to do that. And then the last column there is a description of the event. I'm not super picky. I like more than one sentence, so I always just say like 3 sentences. So like, what was the event, what was going on, and what was one takeaway? Like, I went to the Youth Promotor June monthly meeting. I went in person, there was pizza. We heard from the panelists. I really enjoyed hearing from Magalli in particular. She's so amazing. The end. And then I love that. It's so easy. Down here, you'll see the totals. So right now there's zeros. They auto calculate. So literally all you have to do is just put in the hours that you did, and it automatically sums it up for you. It does the math for you so easy. And then it tells you how much you made for that quarter. In the Youth Promotor signature, you literally just write your name, and that's it. And then you email it to me and we're good to go. Sometimes you guys need like extra room. It's really easy. All you have to do is right click, add another line to the bottom, write things in, and it auto calculates everything for you. I'm gonna go into deeper into the time logs to show you guys like what a perfect example looks like in the next slide, please. Okay, so let's break it down. So total training hours equals PT, paid training. Total community event hours equals CE, that's community engagement. Stomp the stigma, that was community engagement. When we go out and do like any kind of tabling, or you're working with the community, or you guys are ready to like implement your projects or are working on your projects, that's community engagement, because we're creating for the community at large. Stuff like this, where we're just training you guys and it's just the YP, like just you guys and us, those are paid training hours. You guys get paid $12 an hour for paid training and then $14 an hour for community engagement. Flat. It's not taxed. You don't need to write W-2s or W-9s. I don't know what they are. W-2. You don't need to do any of that stuff. You get paid for everything. The Excel, like I mentioned, the Excel spreadsheet auto calculates all the math for you. I am terrible at math. I could not figure out what 6 times 4 was earlier today. It was very embarrassing. So I love stuff like this because I don't have to do any of the math. I just have to do the hours that I worked. And then, like I mentioned, at least 3 sentences per description box. Fill in the date, the title, the hours, the description, and then your information. So this example is one that I wrote up. If you've gone to everything, or if you plan on going to everything within this pay period, within this quarter. So the first one is like Noche de Padres y Amigos, or actually it would be Stomp the Stigma if you went to Stomp the Stigma. Noche de Padres y Amigos. Okay, I was there for 2 hours. The CHW registration at the JC, that's paid training. I was there for 2 hours. The Jew and YP monthly meeting, I was there for 2 hours. All the CHW classes are there. I was there for 2 hours. For your guys' YP retreat that you're gonna have, we set that as a baseline of 20 hours. That's awesome. It's awesome. And then we also have, I'm gonna introduce to you guys a little bit later. You guys are getting a sneak peek right now. Those of you who are here at this monthly meeting, we have multiple murals to do this summer. And this year, I'm opening it up to all the YP who can come and support. That counts as community engagement. It's so much fun. And you guys will be working with me and with one of my mentors who taught me how to do murals. He's awesome. That counts as community engagement. So like, let's say you work on the murals for 2 days for like 3 hours each, and then you go to the August monthly meeting. That equals out to be a total of $610.50, which is pretty good. And that's just for like the things that we have right now. We're probably gonna add more to the calendar. We're gonna have more paid trainings, maybe more community engagement. Sometimes we're invited to go to healthcare fairs and stuff like that, where we just table and pass out like stickers and buttons to anybody who walks by. But yeah, so like I mentioned there, description of the event, at least one takeaway. So I just wrote like some, I can barely read, I'm so blind. So like for Noche de Padres y Amigos, like there were food and drinks. I went with my family to learn about the internship program. We got into groups. We got to hear more about what we're going to be doing this year. It was great. Like that is solid. Sometimes we have YP who like to write like long descriptions. That's beautiful too. I love that because we actually end up using some of that sometimes for like evaluation. I read all of them, so they make me really happy to read. And then sometimes if you guys have like suggestions like, oh, this is really cool, but like I suggest maybe next time we do it like this, or I would love to do that. That really helps us too, because we're like, oh, okay, like I didn't even think about that. But you know, Alex said that we should do something like this. So that's awesome. Oh, Juliet, I thought it was Stephanie coming through. And then that's time logs 101. Each quarter, so after today, maybe on Monday, because we're also working tomorrow, Monday, Christian will be sending you guys blank time logs for you guys to start filling out. If you have any questions about them, text me, message me on GroupMe, email me, also ask each other too. And then when you guys turn them in at the end of the quarter, bye guys, thank you. At the end of the quarter, we will send you the ones for the second quarter. And at the end of that quarter, we'll send you the ones for the third quarter. And at the end of that quarter, we'll send you the ones for the fourth quarter. Right now, you guys do not know who your YP leads are. I do. But they will also help you with your time logs too. We had one YP lead last year, Jose. He's a pro promotor this year. His time logs were like on point all the time. And he helped so many YP like get theirs to be perfect too. Because if they're perfect and you guys are documenting like all the things that you do, more money, woo. And then with the CHW course, the time that you guys spend doing your homework, the time that you spend watching the videos, the times that you're in class, put that down too. They're like, I did my homework for 2 hours. I watched this 1 hour YouTube video that they asked me to. Put that in there. Any questions before I move on? Yes. Yes, if you are a commuter, put that in. So use that as like the last sentence. So like sometimes we have students who live in like Sonoma. We had a student who lived in Cloverdale. Like put that commuting time in there as well. Huh?
And Vallejo.
And Vallejo, we had a student who lived in Vallejo. We have some students who are still in school in Davis right now. Put that commuter in Berkeley, put that commuter time down. Just make sure it's your like last sentence in the description box. Like I added this time for like my commuting. So I know, and I'm not just like, wait a minute, why were you there for 4 hours when it was only 3 hours? So that helps for me to see that too, just so there's less like back and forth communication between us.
Same goes for if you provide rides to another YP, or if you offer to do that, you can absolutely put that time, that commuting time on your timesheet so that you can get compensated for that.
Yeah, because we appreciate that. Like we want everyone to get the full experience. And if you're like picking up your peers or like dropping them off, like put that on there. Should be rewarded. Any other?
I also have one thing.
Yeah.
So just quickly going back to the PT and CE, the reason why those letters are important and the reason why we're going over them is because every single calendar invitation that we send you, every single one will either have, we went over this at the Noche de Padres y Amigos too, but it's worth repeating. Every single calendar invitation, yes. Oh, it is the next slide? Okay, then I'll just stop talking.
That's okay. Any other questions about specifically like this part? Yes.
Are we gonna be able to like access this like later on, just have like an idea?
Yeah, so after this, Christian is actually gonna send you this for you to have it to your email, so you can download it on your computer, open it up as a Google, save it as Excel, so you can have it yourself.
Yeah, and I'll be sending that Monday. So
Monday.
You guys can ask me questions or Magalli, if like you look at it, open it and have questions. Excellent.
Excellent.
So basically, like any like extra time that you like get yourself involved with the program, you can put on there.
Yes, yes. Anything that you do that is LSP related goes on there. Yeah. And so like, that's why, you know, not yet, but within the next couple months, we'll be sending you guys like messages on the group me like, hey, there's actually like an outdoor health resource event. We want to go promote these new stickers and these new brochures. Does anybody want a table with us? And whoever wants to come can come, and those are community engagement hours. Or we'll send a calendar invitation and be like, hey, you guys, there's this really good webinar that we think you guys should go to. It's all about like stress and how to manage your stress, and it's for 2 hours. And if you guys go to that, that's 2 hours of paid training on there. Or like can only go for half an hour. That's half an hour of paid training. Any other questions? Yes.
I was gonna ask if we provided an example of a time log. So
Yes.
we can, you know, how to do it.
Yes, I have this saved. I will have Christian send the example as well, like a screenshot of it. Basically this screenshot, I'll send you guys this screenshot so that you can have an example of it. And then what's also really helpful is at the end of the month, Christian sends like monthly updates, like this is what we did this month. So you guys can go back and see.
It's also really important to keep track of your own time because we're not always going to be in the room when you do work for LSP. Like you might be working on a project where you have to do research on your own, or you have to put something together on your own or with your group, and we're not there. So we can't keep track of it. And sometimes what happens is that if you don't keep track of your own time and you ask us, hey, what did I go to this quarter? We'll give you the hours that we have, but it might be way lower than what you actually did. So that's why we give you the planners and the calendars at the beginning of the year, so that you can use that to keep track of your own time. So if I were you, I would pull out that planner and say today, like June 17th, I'd say 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. And before I forget anything, I would write down 3 short sentences about what I did today. So then I can go back to my planner when I have to do my timesheet, and it's all there. It's all written down. So this really, really depends on you and whether or not you keep track of your own time.
Yes. And then there was a question in the chat that said, is there a maximum number of hours? And I'll let you answer that, Stephanie.
Technically there is. Technically we allocate 120 hours per year for every single youth promotor. However, some youth promotores do more than others. You all know that we're very flexible, and we know that some of you have limited availability. You can make it to mandatory events, but maybe not a lot of community engagement events, and that's okay. So when that happens, that kind of leaves hours available for other students who maybe can do a little bit more. So I think my answer would be, if we see something that looks like too much on your timesheet, we'll reach out to you and we'll say, hey, like, can you just, tell me a little bit more about what you did this quarter? I see you have a lot of hours. And if you're kind of like on a trend or on a pattern of having a lot of hours, then we'll talk to you. However, we've never had this issue with anyone. We've never had an issue with someone doing too much, or it being an issue, like a financial issue where we have to, say you need to stop putting in hours because, you're doing too much. We've never had that issue.
Never had that issue. And if we did, I'd be like, are you practicing self-care? Because you're doing a lot more. So that we would just want to make sure that you're doing okay.
And one thing I wanted to just touch really quick too, yes, we're taking roll, but there's times like, let's say like, for those that are here in person, we can see like, okay, we jotted you down. But then for those that are joining in on Zoom, there can be like, let's say we're talking and none of us are looking at Zoom. Someone joins in like 30 minutes later or joins in earlier, but it just slipped our eyes, like we didn't catch it. So then it's like, I can have on my timesheet or on my record, like they were here for 2.5 hours. So they can be like, hey, Christian, actually, I was there from the very beginning. And it's like, all right, so then it's cross-reference. It's never gonna be like, no, you're lying to me. It's 2.5 hours. They're like, okay, you know what? My bad. That could have been my mistake. And that's another reason why we want everyone to also track their hours, because it can be a mistake on our end too.
Yeah, we're only human. And there's only 4 of us now. Woo, exciting. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, we're almost done. Okay, so where can I find events, trainings, meetings? I love this part. You can find everything in the YP share file, which in the email that Christian is going to send with the time log, we'll also have the link to the YP share file. It's a Google Drive where you guys can find all of this information, as well as like projects you're working on, as well as like resources. We put a lot in there for you guys at your disposal. So that's where else you can find it. You can also find it in your binder. We gave you guys a list of all the monthly meetings we're going to have with their set date and times. We also gave you guys a list of like potential trainings and community engagement events we might have. We send group me reminders to you all, and then Google Calendar is awesome. If you guys have a Gmail account, it's amazing. You also have access to Google Calendar even without the Gmail account, but this is exactly what it looks like. So we send you a Google Calendar invite. It pops up like this. You can literally find mandatory paid training. That's $12 an hour PT, YP monthly meeting, the date, the time. This is our mandatory meeting, hybrid, our office, or the Zoom link. And what this part right here is really important, the yes, no, maybe. I love it when you guys accept things. So if you say yes, I'm like, sweet, I can count on Axel being there. Or if Axel's like, no, Magalli, I'm not gonna be there that day, I'm like, sweet, Axel said, no, I'm not gonna bring extra pizza or something like that. Or like even the maybe, like I might be able to go. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll follow up with them later if they can go or not. That's dope. I do not care if you guys say no to things. I love it when people say no, because that shows me that you have boundaries and that shows me that you're communicating. If you're saying no to everything, then that's when I'm like, I'm a little hurt. I want you guys to go to things, but definitely showing your communication skills on the things that you can and can't go to or might be able to go to is really helpful on our end, because then we can kind of like take account for not only your boundaries, but how much food or how many tables or how many chairs to get, which is really helpful. We will send you the template ASAP, like I mentioned. Take notes and write things down. So like Stephanie said, I would even jot like 3 things down on like a piece of paper on your phone. I do everything on my phone. It's just easier for me because I have it on me always, and it takes me like 2 seconds to write things down. That's super helpful. Even if you're sitting in like a webinar or another training, write something down at the end of it. Be like, okay, I'm done. Like done. So now that I know when I have to do this, I can refer back and write down my description boxes. So sometimes I get nothing in the description boxes, and I will reach out to you and I'll be like, I'm sending this back to you, and you have to write everything down in the description box, which takes more time out of your day and also takes more time out of my day. So now you might be wondering like what this blue section is. So as I mentioned, sometimes you guys are at things for like an hour and 5 minutes, an hour and 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20, like all the way up to like an hour. This is how, and I'm also gonna send this to you so you know to have it. I have all these memorized in my head. It takes a while, but if you have this cheat sheet, it's very helpful. Christian will also send this to you. If you're at an event for an hour and 5 minutes, you put 1.08. If you're at an event for 4 hours and 45 minutes, you put 4.75. If you're on an event for like 2 hours and 50 minutes, 0.83. Let's say you can only be on something for half an hour, 0.5. Very easy to do. And the nice thing about the template for the time log, it calculates all of that for you. So even if you're like, I only have like 10 minutes to like hop on, but I don't know, should I do it 10 minutes? 0.17. Those add up. They add up, which is really, really helpful. Yes, Stephanie or Christian, anything to add? I'm running low on like mental gas right now.
I'm not, no, I think, yeah, just having that, we'll send that over on Monday. And then if you have any questions, like I said, feel free to ask us. Like, well, we're more than happy to answer these questions. Of course, now if I get a text, email at 10 o'clock p.m. at night, I will not respond. It's just boundaries. But you know, like if you have questions about it, send an email. Like I'll get back to you the next day, or we'll get back to you the next opportunity we have. And there's no dumb questions. Questions you probably have might be questions we've already answered before in the past. Questions that even Sarai, former 3-year YP, who's now staff. She's had these questions. She knows how to navigate too. So it's like we have a ton of people here who can help out. But I will get that to you all on Monday, and we will send a reminder on Zoom or on Group Meet to actually be like, hey, check your emails. We sent this out. So we do a lot of reminders too. So
and I will 100% help you guys. Like I'm here to help you guys with your time logs. I want to make sure that you guys are getting paid. And this is something that's really going to help you with time management. Like every single year at the end of the year, we have the YP saying like, wow, the time logs really help me manage my time. I'm actually seeing how much time I'm putting into this internship. I could be doing more, I could be doing less, I could be doing things like outside of this too. And now I know how to manage my time. My time management is, just so you guys know. And it's because of Google Calendar. Google Calendar is amazing. But before I leave you guys off that, you know, Sarai is a perfect example of like how to do like a time log, because she was doing stuff with our organization that neither me, Stephanie, or Christian were involved with. She was working like with one of our, well, just with someone else. And I wasn't ever at her things, but she put her time like perfectly on there. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. I don't even have to cross-reference or ask her because she did it so perfectly, and look at add it up and I don't have to worry about a thing. So that's really helpful for us too. If you're doing things like within your project groups that we might not physically be there, make sure you're keeping track of your time. Otherwise, we won't know that you were doing those things.
and you will all eventually meet the YP leads. So there will be also another point of reference where you can be like, hey, it's their second years, like, hey, how do you do this? And you can ask them. Even Jose, who's going to be a promotor, you often ask him, hey, Jose, how did you figure it out? Or you know, everyone's willing to help, and it's really just taking that first step to asking the question, how can I do, or how do I do this, and then go from there.
Awesome. Any more questions on time logs? We will go over them more, don't worry. And once you see like the email with the templates, it's gonna make more sense to you. And I can actually share these last couple slides too. All right, next slide.
Next is
We did check on questions. Next slide.
you can, yeah, you go to the next one, Steph. There you go.
It takes a while.
Yeah, for the way.
Okay, cool. Christian is now gonna do glows and grows. He's gonna explain what they are, and I will write them down. And I'm gonna sit over here.
We kind of mentioned this really quickly earlier, like close and grows, thorn bud. So this is how we have the description right here. Typically, we'll eventually have our YP leads that will do this, but since this is the first meeting, they're not here, I'll lead us to this. So glows are something that went well, something that made your heart smile, something that something you want to lift up, something that demonstrates the power of the team, or something that you want to celebrate because it glows. So what's something from our time being here today in this monthly meeting, something that made your heart smile, something that made you feel good? If you're on the chat, if you're on Zoom, feel free to also just type this in. But those of you that are here present, like what are some things you liked about this meeting? And don't all raise your hand at once.
I know, we always expect like at least like 6 or 5 people to raise
Yeah.
their hands.
So good.
Like the 3 people who like spoke today and they were like talking about like how passionate they were about their work and stuff like that. Very inspiring.
Yeah, and as we keep doing these, we're gonna have more and more professionals coming in, different experiences. So, and we hope that like with each people that come in, that you guys can have something to take away from it. Awesome. And I think we might have one in the chat. Does anyone else in here have one they would like to say? So this said, goal for him is being in person and being able to meet new faces. So yeah, we've been in a pandemic. We're still in a pandemic. I mean, it's nice to be in person, having interactions, you know? It gets boring being behind a screen. No offense to you behind everyone else behind the screen. But you know, it's more interactive and it's a little easier way to learn.
Marilyn on Zoom said the topic of the icebreaker was fun, and I think it was a nice way to participate on Zoom. And Emilia said how detailed everything was, and it was easy to follow along. And then Shadaya, I will learn how to say your name. I think the panel went very well. I enjoyed hearing from all the professionals and could relate to many of the things they were talking about. And then Frida said a highlight for me would be the panelists who were really relatable. And Frida, I love your name because that is my cat's name.
Her cat's name is Fridi Pablo.
Her name is Frida, Friducha, Fridole, Fridulai.
And then Alberto says, one glow is understanding the responsibilities and the impact community health workers do. Then Mariví says, I like getting to hear the panelists' experiences and hear experiences of the girls, hearing how COVID-19 seriously affected everyone. And that's something as we continue to go through this, we're going to hear different stories, different experiences, even though we're all going through this together. It's not all the same for all of us.
And opportunities for you guys to share out too. Like we want to hear from you as much as we want you to hear from us.
Yeah, we could talk for days, but we're interested to see what you all have to say. Because that's how we can make this program better, and that's how we can inform you in the way that you all want to be informed.
Any other glows?
So Jenny says a glow is that you guys are very kind about everything and sound so professional. Thank you for all you do for us. Jenny, sweet. Does anyone else in here have a glow that they would like to share? Nope. Nope. Okay, well, thank you all those that shared that. Let me just exit out of here. Okay, so now we're gonna go for grows. So grows are something that we can strengthen, something that didn't work out so well, and an opportunity for growth. So something we can improve for next time, something that speaks to the event program specifically, partnership location, or the structure. So it could even be like, we were sitting down a lot, maybe having activities where we're moving around, talking with one another, stuff like that. So with that said, does anyone have a grow they would like to share for our experience today in this meeting? Chat, go ahead whenever you want. And then anyone here in person, feel free to share. There's no wrong answers. No one's gonna hurt my feelings. Why did the screen go black? Never mind, we're back. I'm not gonna hurt my feelings. I'm like
Yes.
cold-blooded.
I was just gonna say, maybe more things to get comfortable with, just because that one yet, because it was one of our first meetings.
Yeah, so cool. So if you didn't hear, Melanie said pretty much in a nutshell, just more activities, icebreakers, just activities to kind of get people more interactive and get to know each other. So I agree. And I think that like with this, we wanted to try to get all this information, but definitely in the future, we also would like to do those things. We want to have you all like be able to kind of talk amongst each other and see like what are some of the things that you all share and similarities that you guys like or some ideas that you might have. So it's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Next monthly meeting, and we didn't get to do it this one because she wasn't available, but we're gonna have a presenter who's actually one of my teachers at USF. She's gonna play a game with all of us where we're like moving around and stuff. So next monthly meeting, we would really like all of you guys to be in person, and we can go outside too. I'll take 2 allergy pills if it means like us moving around and like doing things too. And you bond a lot, like, and you'll have your YP leads and they have more bonding activities for you guys coming up too, so. But I love that. More getting to know each
Anyone else have one? No?
Food recommendations? I got tacos for next time.
The taquero? Banda? Something?
We were that great.
No, you guys,
Knock this one off the park then.
I like the bros though. That's my favorite part.
Yeah, and you like again, like everything we take into consideration because we want to improve this program. You know, like from the time Magalli's here, I haven't had the time that her and Steph had, but you know, like we're all about improvements. What can we do? Never want to stay the same. Like, how can we make things better? As you all as individuals, what you guys are looking for, like how can I better myself? And for us, how do we better this program? So we take all your feedback into serious consideration. So if no one has any grows, then I think we're good and we can conclude.
Yeah, next
our-
slide.
Our next slide.
Bam, thank you. All right, you guys, that was the end of our first monthly meeting. Good job.